Our first guest, Craig Murray, is an historian, ex-British ambassador to Uzbekistan, whistleblower, friend, and campaigner for Assange's freedom, and Workers' Party candidate for Parliament under George Galloway's Workers' Party in Blackburn. So welcome, Craig.
Thank you very much, Katie.
Of course. So wanted to start off by asking you to talk about this recent news that is so exciting. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. You wrote on your blog, "I cannot tell you how happy I am at Julian's release. It is 4 a.m. and I haven't been to bed yet. I've spoken to John Shipton, his father, but everyone else is on a plane en route to Australia. The guilty plea is, of course, coerced in the extreme, and nobody should take it seriously. It gives a chance to claim hollow victory to the odious Biden regime at the cost of a terrible precedent in law classifying journalism and espionage. But the precedent is only in a court of first instance, so is not binding. I should be plain. I have always advised Julian and Stella to take a plea deal if offered and get out of jail. So please tell us about your relationship with Julian Assange, with Stella Assange, and your thoughts on the latest."
I started my, if you like, my independent activist career as a whistleblower myself. I was a British ambassador, and in Uzbekistan, I stumbled on the CIA's torture and extraordinary rendition program. I tried to stop that internally. I failed, and so I went public on it, which was the end of my diplomatic career, but start of a new and rather healthier career. And that's how I came into the purview of Julian and WikiLeaks back in about 2006, 2007, sometime like that. And we cooperated together on a great many things. And then, of course, after his incarceration, really, this last 12 or so years, I've been campaigning for his release. And I got to know Stella as part of his team before they were an item, if you like. And then I've remained very close to both of them. I was very proud to be one of only 6 people they were allowed to invite to their wedding in Belmarsh jail. And when I got to the jail on the day, I wasn't allowed in on the grounds that the Home Office, as our sort of something like the equivalent of your Department of Homeland Security, announced I was a danger to the jail, which I'm quite proud of, that I'm a danger to a maximum security prison.
I think
very
flattering.
That's pretty impressive. But so I wasn't actually so I was left standing outside the prison gates with a bottle of champagne. But that we've remained obviously close. I've continued to cooperate with WikiLeaks aside from my relationship with Julian. I've been heavily involved in the case. I was at every day of the hearings, even during COVID, when only 2 people were allowed in at one stage, and that was John Shipton and me. So it's been a huge and terribly emotional journey, and at times it's been extremely emotional, and providing not just advice and assistance and campaigning expertise and energy, but providing friendship and emotional support to the family, has been a major part of my life. I think, and I was in floods of tears last night.
How did you hear about the news?
Well, I knew something was in the offing. It happened slightly quicker than I expected, but I heard about it. I was actually, I'm standing as a candidate for Parliament here with a genuine chance of actually winning the seat. So I'm campaigning 24 hours a day, literally like crazy. And I just came out of an important meeting here, and one of my people told me, and I sort of looked at them in astonishment. I knew something was in the offing. I didn't expect it to happen quite this early. I immediately phoned up. I managed to get John in Australia, but everyone else, of course, was on a plane heading to Australia, so I couldn't get hold of anybody else.
Can you just explain more about the actual agreement made by Julian Assange, why he did it, why you advised him to accept it?
Yeah, I should say I didn't advise him to accept the specific agreement. I didn't know the details of the specific agreement. what I advised him over a period of a year or so is that whatever plea deal is on the table, take it. Do not, if you have to plead guilty to murder, plead guilty to murder if it gets you out of jail, because otherwise you are going to die in jail. And you have a wife, you have children, you have many of us who love you. You have so much more to contribute intellectually in the future that you need to be able to contribute intellectually. The world does not need to lose Julian Assange, and that nobody will believe. Everybody will know. Everybody in the world will know this is a coerced confession and it's bullshit. So nobody is going to believe the plea, and of course there was an obvious temptation for Julian to say, no, I'm going to fight for freedom of speech. I'm going to fight for freedom of press. I'm going to fight until the end. We're going to keep this going. But that way, he would have been caught in an unending process. Even if there were to be eventually a great victory in the Supreme Court, that would probably be 13 years away, and he'd probably die in the process before getting there. So that temptation for sort of a glorious fight, it's not really there. You get bound down by the process. There'd be years and years of pre-trial hearings and motions and goodness knows what. And so for me, that was the only way to go. And I think the important thing is, as I say, this isn't a Supreme Court decision, which is then dependent on which is then binding on other courts. It's not even a superior court decision of any kind. This is just a first court decision, which other courts can take note of the same level, but it's not binding upon them. So in terms of it being a bad precedent, yes, it is a bad precedent, but it's not a bad precedent from a senior court that has to be followed. So I'm not too worried by that argument.
Yeah, I was afraid that because he's so principled, I was afraid he was going to refuse anything but absolute vindication and truth and die in jail. So I was very happy that he did take this. And what exactly has he confessed to?
He appears to have confessed to one count of espionage, and I'll be completely honest. I've been so busy canvassing voters all day and addressing public meetings and things that I haven't actually studied the fine detail of the exact agreement they've come to. And bluntly, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters at all. Whatever it is he's confessed to, it's bullshit.
Can Julian's guilty plea be used as a precedent and create jurisprudence for any similar future cases?
Yeah, well, the answer is it can. I mean, a prosecutor in a similar case can say, well, in the Julian Assange case, this was found, but it's not from a senior court. So another court is not bound to follow it. Right. It can be pointed out as a precedent to show, yes, you can do this, but it doesn't bind them to do it as it would be if it were from a senior court. We've
had on Stella, we've had on Nils Melzer, Max Blumenthal, who talked about the, attempt to kill him, basically, the Sheldon Adelson plot. So we are extremely happy with this news here at the Katie Halper Show, and so happy for Julian, his family, and especially for his two children who now will get to have a father at home.
That's right. And the absolute, the absolute necessity of any deal was that he didn't actually go to the United States, because he could have been Epstein'ed as soon as he got there. And so the way they've managed to avoid that, it's been put together very carefully. And I should say, it's very important to say it's the force of public opinion that has turned this. The huge thank you must be made to all those people all around the world who stood campaigning on street corners, who stood in the pouring rain, who attended demonstrations, who wrote letters to their paper, who did. It was the turning round of public opinion on this which forced the hand of the politicians. And people say, well, Biden did it because Biden didn't want unpopularity from this issue before the election. And I think that's true. I think that is partly what motivated the Justice Department to do it. But it was the people who forced Biden into that position by turning around public opinion on this issue. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to every single one of the people who campaigned. Some of them campaigned over years and years and years. But the individuals who I saw standing on street corners over a 12-year period, regularly doing this non-stop. And I'd also like to mention some people we've lost. Gavin McFadden, Daniel Ellsberg, Vivian Westwood, John Pilger. These people were fundamental. The campaign lasted so long that some of us didn't make it to the end of it. And those people, who are wonderful people, were absolutely fundamental to the campaign.
Yeah, I had John Pilger on, the great John Pilger. We talked about this case. I also talked to Daniel Ellsberg about it, and we've also had on the show other tireless fighters, Randy Credico, Roger Waters, Stefania Maurizi, Juan Passarello, and Kevin Scostola, and Richard Medhurst. So
that actually was a roll call of every single friend I have in the world. I don't have any other friends. That was all of them.
Well, you're in good company.
Well, now I have you.
Yes. Okay. Great. Yeah. And Katie Halper. Yeah.
Today, a fantastic hope and success, and it is a victory. I know people think it's been marred a bit by the plea deal aspect, but they wanted to kill him. They wanted to give him 150 years. They've not been able to, and they've had to let him go. And that's because of all you great campaigners out there. And I want to repeat again, but the thanks are from the bottom of my heart to so many of you.